Well, welcome everyone to our orientation information session for the Bachelor of Creative Industries. Hello. My name is Dr. Sarah Peters. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior lecturer in drama here at Flinders. And we also have with us Dr. Claire Henry.
I'm a lecturer in Stream and also discipline lead.
And so for those people, I'm not sure if the people online could hear that because I've got the... Okay, great. Claire's going to introduce herself in the chat as well. We also have with us in the room here Annie Tabner. I'll get Annie to wave her hand for those of you who can see her in the room. She's like a glorious go-to goddess. With all of your questions that you might have about your study plan, your enrollment. Am I enrolled in the right topics? Oh my goodness, I'm not sure if I'm even in the right specialization. I think I need to do something slightly differently to what everybody else in my cohort is doing. Somebody please sit down and help me. Annie is your person. Is that better? Is that okay?
I love that title.
Yeah, great.
I love it.
Okay, Glorious Goddess Annie is here with us. And so Claire is also going to be helping moderate the people who are with us online. And so there might be opportunities for people to ask questions throughout, but there's definitely time at the end for some questions as well. So feel free to either pop your hand up so that I can see you, grab our attention. I'm happy to answer questions as we go. Otherwise, there will be time at the end for some questions as well. So if you can click through onto our next. Thank you. So I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on Kaurna land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. This is unceded Kaurna country, sovereign Kaurna nation. And I would just like to start by putting this provocation out to everyone in the room to think about who are the traditional owners of the lands that you have lived on. Perhaps you're here from Adelaide and the surrounding area, and so you have grown up and have lived on Kaurna country your whole life. But perhaps, like me, you're actually from somewhere else. I'm from Queensland, rural southwest Queensland, actually. And so I grew up on lands that are traditionally owned by the Mandamdanti people. I studied on Jarrawa and Guyabul country in Toowoomba, and then taught high school drama and English on Kamilaroi country before coming down here to Adelaide. And I found it really useful. Someone once gave me the provocation to think about who are the traditional owners of the lands that I have lived on in my life, or where I frequently travel to as part of, say, holidays with my family. And so I would like to share that provocation with you as well, to just see if you can perhaps think about what is a part of your story and whose lands you've lived on in your lifetime. But right now we are here on Kaurna country, so welcome. Could we click through? Thank you, and yes, welcome to people who are still joining us and trickling in. There are more chairs down the front here, so please come on in. So this is a little bit of an overview of what we're doing today. We are going to start with a bit of a check-in question just to see how you're all travelling, and we're going to invite people to just call out their responses for this opening check-in. We're going to go through some degree-specific information. Now, I use that term lightly because the Bachelor of Creative Industries actually has a bunch of different specialisations, and so this is an information session for people across all of the BCI. If you're here for BCI, come on in. Come on in, welcome, welcome, come on in. There's more chairs down the side here, on this lower level if you'd like to come on in. So as I said, there's a bunch of different specialisations within this degree, and I teach into the specialisation around theatre and performance. So I have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of knowledge about the whole degree, most knowledge about BCI theatre and performance. Claire has a little bit of knowledge about the whole degree, most knowledge about the BCI film and television. And so we will hopefully be able to answer most of your questions today. So we'll have a look at some degree-specific info. And then we've just got kind of this is perhaps what you might expect in your first couple of weeks of university. Some of you might have been to university before, you've been to uni, you've left, you've come back, you might have studied elsewhere. So the whole experience of university might not be completely new for you. For others, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Everything here is new. I run into people earlier this morning who are just like, where do I even go? This campus is huge. So it's kind of a detailed week by week. This is the kind of stuff you might expect in week 1. This is the kind of stuff you should be focusing on in week 2. So it's just a bit of a guide and a map. We've got classic O week, get to know you activity. And if you do end up in the BCI, if you are here because you're in the BCI Theatre and Performance, we have like checking questions every single lesson. So this is just like easing you into that. I've got a bit of an overview of some of the services that we have available for students, and I will continue to passionately encourage you to access and use those services. And then of course, there's times for questions and chat at the end. As I said, throw up your hand throughout if you've got a question, if it's like particularly relevant to the thing we're discussing in the moment. Otherwise, if you might like to ponder and think about your question for a bit, feel free to just jot it down and ask it towards the end. Any questions before I dive in? No? Glorious. So we're here now with our first check-in question. And so if we can just have a couple of hands to like go up around the room or online for our online participants, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to starting on your university adventure? Or what are some of the things that you're uncertain about? I have a couple of offers for the things that you're looking forward to. Yes, thank you. Okay, great. Networking, meeting like-minded individuals who share a similar vision. The great thing is that at university, you'll meet people who are also not like-minded and do not share your similar vision, and that's part of the joy. What else are we looking forward to? I was talking to my mum on the phone in the car on my way in today, and she was like, oh, week, first years, you're going to meet so many fascinating people. I was like, yeah, that's so true, Mum. That is so correct. And this is the first time ever that I'm not actually teaching a first year class. I'm really sad about that. I used to get my first years on their first day of class to write a letter that I would then give back to them at the end of the semester. And it was always, what are you looking forward to? Like our question that was here. What are you most nervous about? And knowing that I'm going to give this letter back to you in week 12, when every single assignment for every single topic is going to be due, and you might be a little bit nervous and stressed, what advice would you like to give to yourself in the future? And everyone would always forget that they wrote those letters in week 1, and we're always thrilled to get them then in week 12. So that's something that you might like to do for yourself, regardless that you're not in my class and that I'm not having the opportunity to do that this semester. That was your little thought break. Does anyone else have some other things that they could throw out there? What are other things that you're looking forward to this semester? Extra thought break thinking time while Sarah has a sip of water. Yes, thank you.
I'm looking forward to being on campus. I studied online for 4.5 years, so I actually got to meet my face.
Yeah, okay, so looking forward to, and I'm just kind of repeating these for the benefit of the mic. So looking forward to being on campus because has already had the experience of studying online for 4.5 years. So amazing, yeah. Looking forward to being around the vibrancy of other people. Thank you. I reckon I'd love one more. Yeah, thank you.
I come from a really small campus, uni in like a city area.
Yeah, okay, cool. So it has come from a mid-sized town, did you say?
It's very small. It's
a small town.
In the mid-southeast.
In the mid-southeast. Okay, cool. So looking forward to being in a bigger place. Yeah, fantastic. When I moved here, everyone was like, oh, Adelaide's just a big country town. And I was like, no, I have just come from a big country town. This is a city, and you will appreciate what you've got. But that's a really good point, that for some of us who have perhaps lived in the city or have lived in other major cities, it's like, Adelaide, great. And for those of us who have come from regional areas, I grew up in a town that was 7 hours west of Brisbane in Queensland, and it was like, whoa, big city, it's amazing. 6 months before I could drive through the Adelaide CBD. So if that resonates with anybody, I totally get it and understand. So yeah, being in a larger place where there's more things on offer and more things to do. Great. So slightly perhaps more, I'm asking you to invest in your courageous vulnerability here. What are some of the things that you're uncertain about being at university? Maybe there are some of those things that we can address today, which would be ACEs. Yeah. Okay, so maybe that the campus is big and might get lost, might mess up and end up in the wrong spot. Okay, so that's something that a lot of us might be uncertain about. And so, straight away, I'm going to recommend to you an app, Lost on Campus. There's a slide that's going to come up about that coming up in the presentation. But also like use O-Week to go and find where all your classes are. Do like a practice run of figuring out, are you up in the law building, which is up the hill and closer to Siberia? Or you're in the humanities building or somewhere in one of these massive lecture theatres. So doing a practice run about where your rooms are is highly recommended. Anything else that, maybe one more thing that people are uncertain about, and maybe we've got somebody online. Oh yes, we do. Okay, worried that the degree of extra production involvement requirement might be too much for me to handle BCI film and TV. Yeah, okay, fair. Really good point, because a lot of us are here in degrees that are going to involve a little bit of critical studies, but then also an element of production and making, and generally collaborative production, which means having to figure out your schedule in alignment with other people's schedule. And so what does it mean if you're in the BCI film and TV and perhaps you're going to be working on creating a short film or a short doco or something that is quite production heavy, and we have editing suites and the resources that here available on campus, what's that going to do to the time requirement and the commitment that you need to be on campus for? So I think that it's definitely something that is probably really wise that you're thinking about now, and that hopefully when you go into your first week of your classes, you'll get a really clear sense of when all of your assignments are going to be due and how you might balance out the commitments and requirements involved in the making aspects of your degrees, and perhaps prepare and plan ahead for those. But yeah. Okay, thanks so much. So as I flagged before, we're here for the BCI information session, but there are a bunch of different specializations, which you might not even be aware of because you might just be focused just on what your specialization is. So there are probably people in the room, hopefully from all of these. Can I get people to raise their hands if they're here in the BCI digital media? Okay, glorious, welcome. You had a buddy down the front here.
Oh,
yeah. And our people online can also indicate which one they're in as well. BCI interactive design. Crickets. Okay, no worries. All good. Film and TV. Oh no, there was a thumbs up online. I saw that. Fraser. Okay, glorious. Thank you. Welcome. Film and TV. Oh, good Lord. Okay. All right. Half the room. Probably even more than half of the room. Okay, fantastic. Well, then Claire is really your person more than I am your person because she'll actually be teaching into your degree. So fantastic. Welcome. Theatre and performance. Oh, hello. Sorry to be giving them extra love. I'm just so sad that I'm not actually teaching the first years this year, but I'll see you next year. So welcome. Festivals and art production. Yeah, look, it's a new one. We were just trialing out its delivery this year, so this makes total sense to me. Okay, awesome. Writing and publishing. Oh, amazing. There's probably equal number of hands down the bottom here compared to what's up there if you can't see across the two. And music. Oh, wow, fantastic. I'll give yourselves a round of applause. That's glorious. Thank you. What a thing to throw at you. I have a very strong applause culture. It gets to the point where by the time I get to week 3, I'm like, it's week 3, and everybody applauds. And look at you already being able to do that only in your O-Week presentation. So thank you. So these are all the different specializations that we have. Thank you for clicking through there. No, that's good. Yeah. And the thing about this glorious degree that you are in is that regardless of which specialization everybody in this room is in, there is a suite of topics that everybody is going to be taking. I'm going to talk about a couple of those that you're all going to be taking in semester 1 or semester 2 of this year. So these degrees are structured so that there are some topics that everybody takes, and sometimes those are also the same topics that people who are doing the BCA, the Bachelor of Creative Arts, in screen and drama and visual effects and entertainment design and the other ones, also take that common suite of topics. So there's a bunch of opportunities for you to be getting to know your peers across all of these different specializations. Then you're then going to have a suite of topics, and it's generally between 2 and 3 each year that are, sometimes even up to 4, depending on how the degrees have been structured, that are specific for your chosen discipline. So using a theatre and performance example, there are topics in theatre and education, community engaged arts practice, the actor and the text, drama specific topics that people take. And then you also have the opportunity to select 2 to 3 electives or options. I've used the slashy there because we might be more familiar with one of those terms than the other, but it usually means that in your study planner, there are squares that are like, whatever you would like to do, within reason, but whatever you would like to do. And often people use those electives or options to be having a bit of a taste into one of the other specializations. So you might be doing a BCI film and TV, like most people in the room are, but you might also have a really strong interest in theatre and performance. And so you might take a couple of electives or options topics in the theatre and performance, or in writing and publishing, or in digital media, or in music. So there is a nice balance, I think, in this degree between hanging out with people across the creative arts and creative industries, focusing specifically on what your discipline and the thing that you have chosen to do is. And that's where a lot of, when our person online, Evelyn, was talking about production within that degree, that's where a lot of that is going to happen, making and creating and developing your disciplinary skill. But then there's also opportunities for you to kind of spread out into other areas as well. So this broad structure is similar across all of the different specializations. So these are the topics that a lot of you will all be doing this year. So you can look around the room and be like, okay, great, these are my people. This is a part of my BCI community. And you will all be doing Introduction to Creative Arts, Rio 1001. And as I flagged at the start, I was like, oh, I don't know a whole lot about the other specializations. I went to the handbook on the Flinders website and clicked into the study planner for every single specialization to make sure that this was accurate information that I'm giving you. And so I guess the bonus that you get from that is to know that that handbook is there and it readily tells you what you are expected to enroll in every semester. So that's your first port of call, and your second port of call is probably sending an email to Ask Flinders, which will ultimately end up down Gloria's side, Annie, over on the side here. So you'll be doing Introduction to Creative Arts, you'll be doing a topic called Comms 1001. This is something that every student across the university does, academic and professional communication. A really important topic for getting you used to what is expected and what are the standards of being at a university and studying and training and doing research and writing in a scholarly way at a university level. V1003, I've put the little asterisks there because it is a topic that a lot of the specializations take, but not all of them. Theatre and performance being one. That is no longer a part of the core requirements in that degree. But for a lot of you, you'll also all be enrolled in this essential multimedia. So these are a couple of the topics that you'll be taking. Some of you will be taking those first two in semester one, and for other degrees, we're taking them at different times throughout the year. Thanks, Claire. I'll have a sip of water. Look at all of these amazing industry partners that you will have the opportunity to work with. So I guess one of the things that I love about the BCI is that it is an opportunity for you to collaborate across the specializations, whether that be because you're taking topics with other people in the creative arts or because you have this opportunity to take electives and options in different areas. And so this is like this is what you've got ahead of you. First year, broad introduction and building blocks. Second year, you're really refining your skill, collaborating across disciplines, starting to do some making and creating. Think of it as that first year is like, oh my God, where am I? What am I doing? What are the basic things that I need to know? Second year, you're doing some collaboration with one another. And by the time you get to third year, you're really getting to tailor your studies to your own pathway. You might be working with industry partners, you might be doing community engaged projects, you might be doing some work integrated learning or some work placements and some industry placements. So it's really about getting a handle on things in first year, figuring out how to do what you do with others in second year, and then figuring out how to take what you do into your own creative business venture or into your community engaged practice or into working with industry and developing your portfolio. So it really starts to develop that outward focused frame by the third year of your study. And then of course there's like honours and like you could do a PhD, but I won't talk about those things right now. And so these are just some of the examples of industry partners that you'll be working with across the next couple of years, which is super exciting. Next. Okay, so there ends kind of our BCI specific information. So if you came today thinking, oh, I thought for sure they'd tell us about X, Y, Z, maybe that's the thing you'd like to make a note of now, or perhaps I could do a quick pull out. Is there anything that you thought, oh, I'd really love to know this about our specific degree before you go on to kind of generic what to expect in the first couple of weeks? Glorious. No? Okay, no worries. So these next bunch of slides are kind of created as checklists for you, so that this whole session is being recorded. You'll be able to have access to these slides. If you want to come back and review them later, they act as a bit of a checklist. Have I attended my orientation sessions? Make sure I have an ID card. So they're kind of written in that first person checklist way. But you are all here, so tick to that first step there, attend the orientation sessions. Now, this is only one of the things that are available. I highly recommend, there's like tens of freebies down in the plaza. There are all sorts of sessions being offered across this week. And I highly recommend that you just dive in and get engaged with as many of them as possible. Even if they might be pushing you outside your comfort zone or scavenger hunts aren't your thing, they're probably, other people are there kind of trying to vulnerably, awkwardly get involved as well, and they're going to be super excited and keen that you have showed up. So show up to as many of the orientation sessions as you can. Make sure you have your ID card. As we get into later weeks, you'll see how for some of you, you need to be able to access specific spaces. You need to be able to access the editing suites or the rehearsal room in the drama centre. And so you'll need to be able to ask for swipe card access via your student card. So really important to get that sorted this week. How do we know when a course or topic will include after hours time and to prepare for it? Okay, great question, Brielle, thank you. This is something that is probably topic specific. All of the flow pages are now available for you for all the things that you have enrolled in already. And so it's kind of a going into each of those topics on your flow page, and it should have a weekly schedule. This is the timetable for that class. And there should be, for example, I'm teaching a third year topic with a colleague in Screen, Tom Young, and we're getting the film and TV students and the theatre and performance students to collaborate together to create a 24-minute TV pilot. And so on our flow page, we've said class is 1 till 4 every Monday, but we are filming, we've got a shoot week blocked out the first week of the mid-semester break. So you need to be available in that mid-semester break for a full week because we're going to be shooting that week, filming that week. And so we've made that really clear on our flow page from the get-go. It is an optional elective topic, so if somebody was to say, oh, actually I'm not available that week because I've already got family plans or commitments that I can't get out of, then they would know to withdraw from that topic prior to really getting into the thick of it. So which topic was that? That's a topic called CREA 3103, Applied Creative Practice. It's a third year topic. Yeah, sorry. Sorry to dangle this really exciting project on the table, but I'm kind of just using that as an example to say, if you looked that topic up online, it would say that there are 3 hours of classes a week. But there is clearly a lot more involved outside of class time, like the shoot week in the break. So in general, topic coordinators will put that type of information on the landing page for each topic in Flow. So it's a very long answer to your question, Brielle, but I would suggest going into the Flow pages for each of your topics and just seeing if there's any extra information outlined there. It's also a really great question for you to ask your topic coordinators in the very first lecture. You have like I refer to it as a try before you buy period. If you've got a topic that you're enrolled in as an elective and it turns out that that topic has a substantial outside of scheduled class time commitment and involvement, there's a period of time that you can withdraw from that topic and enroll in another topic within the first 2 weeks of the semester. There's room and flexibility for a little bit of movement. And so there is this period of time between now and the end of week 2 where you can be sussing out everything that's required. Of course, that's not, if a topic is core for your degree, you have to take it, and so you can't just withdraw from that topic, but you should be able to find out what the commitments are in advance. It was a great question, thank you. So as part of that is to check your enrollment and make sure that there aren't any timetable clashes. Sometimes if we are dealing with a lot of topics across a lot of degrees with a lot of students, and Annie and the rest of the team of I'm going to say they just what we call goddesses. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Work really hard to we've tried to eliminate any clashes for students in advance, but you never know, things happen, we are human. And so if there is a timetable clash, say between 2 of your core topics, then just send an email to Ask Flinders and it will get sent to the right person and we'll be able to deal with that and respond to that. But check it now, because often for your topics, there might be a couple of different options for tutorials, for example. And it just means shifting around which tutorial you're going to so that you can actually attend all of your classes. I've got a student who can't attend my lecture, but the lecture is being recorded. And so she's just going to watch the lecture before she then comes to the next session in that week. And we've already had a conversation about that. Access, your internet connections, the resources that you need. I know that this says that this is for orientation week, but it'll probably happen across week 1 as well. You'll find out if you need to have any extra access to different rooms, and you can organise to get that access. And just to get familiar with Flow. Now, it says Flow/Canvas. We are transitioning our online learning platform, and that requires a bit of a dance. So Some of you maybe might have all of your topics just on Flow on that platform. Some of you might have some topics on Flow and some topics on Canvas. And so it's just a slightly different format and layout between the two platforms. And so we totally get that there might be a little bit of figuring outness that happens across the first couple of weeks. We are still doing a bit of figuring outness across the first time that people are delivering in Canvas. From next year, all topics will be delivered via Canvas. So we're in a bit of a transition period at the moment. And so you might have two platforms to become familiar with. Feel free to ask as many questions as you would like. Again, we're all human. Some of the topics that are being delivered in Canvas might this year work a certain way, and then next year we'll learn more about it and we'll be able to deliver them in Canvas in a more sophisticated manner. So just be conscious that some of you, this won't even be a thing. All of your topics will still be in Flow. And that means that this time next year, you're going to have a big shift in your online learning platforms. Some of you, you might have a foot in both camps.
Do we have a look at the option session? Do you remember what that looks like or how you access Canvas?
Sure.
Sorry.
You'll have to do it because you're sharing the thing. So Claire's just suggested that we have a quick look at how you access Flow. So this is our Okta dashboard. I don't even know if it looks the same for students though. That's why I was nervous.
Less with different little icons for different apps.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
We have a button on Flow that we pressed that is like student view, and it shows us what it looks like from your perspective. It's a bit different to what it looks like for a staff member. So you'll have all of these different apps and icons, and then you would click on Flow, Flinders Learning Online. Once you're enrolled in your topics, you will then be able to have the topics that you are enrolled in will show up on the side here. And so this is a topic that Claire is teaching into or has access to. I think that's last year's, so maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah, cool. So Claire's just scrolling through that now, and it just shows you that there's a toggle for the topic guide, readings. Running along the side are each of the different weeks, and we often have different modules for every week, which some topic coordinators, that's the main teacher in your topic, might choose to only open them week by week. Others will have every week available there. I'm a week by week kind of gal, because I put up overviews and things that I want us to explore together, and then I open that module. Yeah, so this is just giving you an example of what it might look like in there. Thank you.
And I think there's another question.
Great. If we're unsure if we're prepared for that out-of-class commitment, is it better to give it a try for the first semester or move to another degree immediately? Oh, that feels so full on. Okay. I think that if you're concerned about the out-of-class commitment, always talk to your topic coordinator first. Have a chat with them so that you can make sure that you're truly, genuinely on the same page about what is actually required. And what is actually required to pass your engagement and involvement in that topic. And that feels like, and I guess that kind of falls under, of your options you've given there, Evelyn, under giving it a try for a semester. Absolutely. Talk to people, ask questions, see what flexibility is possible and available to you. That would be my gut response. But of course, you need to make your degree work for you. And if you were equally interested in a different degree and it looks like that's going to be more accessible for you, then you do you. This feels like something that I should not be giving advice on because of your specific circumstances. But a good question and a good prompt for me to be able to tell people, just email your topic coordinators. We love to hear from you and to assist in making sure that what we're trying to communicate is being heard and received and understood. I have generally found that there is flexibility that can be structured into even assessments within a topic. So always ask the question. The answer might be no, but always ask the question first. Does that sound fair? Great. Yeah? Yep. Okay, great. I felt a little bit like, oh, I've just been put on the spot here for this advice giving, but glorious. Okay, so that was O week. This is week 1. Please go to your classes. Go to your classes. Go to your classes. I highly recommend attending your classes because that is where you're going to be able to get all of the answers to your questions. Even if your lectures are recorded and you're able to access them later, then nothing beats being able to just ask questions in real time. If you have an online availability, then try and be online, even if that means being on your bed in your pajamas still, but be there, asynchronously, like be there at that time and you'll be able to ask questions and riff off of the conversation and contribute in ways that isn't possible if you're only watching things back later. So check when your seminars begin. Sometimes lectures start in week 1, but tutorials don't start till week 2. Again, the topic flow page is your, what's a non-religious version of saying Bible? I'm not sure, but I've said it now, so people will probably get the reference I'm trying to make here. It is your go-to place. It is your go-to place to access information that you need about your topic. And so it should state very clearly there whether you have both lectures and tutorials in week 1 or just one or just the other. We have something called access plans. I think they're actually still formally referred to as a disability access plan, but I promise you that disability is understood in the broadest possible terms. And so you can go to health and counselling and they will put you in the right direction to organise an access plan. And that means that if there is anything we can do to make your access of the topic and the content and your experience at university better and go well for you, then we would really love to do that. And you'll figure out your access plan with somebody who you can talk to about it confidentially. And then the topic coordinator just gets sent the access plan and it doesn't disclose any of your personal information. It just says, if there are exams, can this student please have an extra 30 minutes? There might need to be some flexibility around engagement requirements. And perhaps some of the other things that I've seen relate to mobility and access, because in the theatre spaces, not all of our spaces are great for access with different mobility aids. And then also things around like perhaps doing oral presentations just for the topic coordinator as opposed to in front of a room full of people, depending on what is going to help you make it go well. So we don't get any of the disclosure about what's going on for you, just the things that we can do to make it go well. It often also means that you don't need to have a medical certificate for an extension on an assignment. So it's a good thing to have in place as a bit of a backup plan. If you have reason to get an access plan, I highly recommend that you get that sorted as early as you possibly can. Get to know your topic schedule and your assessments, figure out when all of the things are due. Again, that should all be available to you right now. As soon as you're enrolled in a topic, the information about assessment and due dates is there. So I recommend plugging that into your calendar. Get in the habit of checking your university email regularly. I tell my students once a day, Monday to Friday, please check your email, especially because there could be a change in location for a lecture and I'm just going to email them and say, instead of rocking up to the dance studio, can we please meet in the Matthew Flinders Theatre for this class tomorrow? And so it's just really wise to get into the habit of checking it. I like to say once a day.
And I can forward it too.
Oh, great. Here, hang on. Do you want to talk straight into this?
Yeah, just one tip is that you can forward your university email to a personal email. So if you know you're not going to be very good at it, you have it checking it and just get a text. Yeah, great. Excellent tip.
Oh yeah, so in the generic slides that I was sent, it said get familiar with the university campus, and then I added find the rooms in a week. Because yes, as I said earlier, always better to kind of know where you're headed, or know that you have to walk up a massive steep hill to get to your class. And maybe you would like a bit of extra time for getting your breath back by the time you get there. There is also something called Connect Week, which has a whole bunch of other events. And so we recommend that you attend those as well. This is the Lost on Campus app. This is great if you're looking for a specific room. My office is kind of in a particular spot in this corridor where people don't realise that they've come out of Social Sciences North. Right now, technically, you're in Social Sciences North. And if you took 3 steps down the corridor, you would be in the Humanities building. And so you might know what room number you're looking for. I don't know how many times people have said, I'm looking for room 241 or 2 something something. And it's like, yes, but you're looking for that in Social Sciences South or Social Sciences North, SSS, SSN. Humanities is HUM. All of the buildings have slightly different acronyms for them. So this app will help you navigate this campus. But always just ask someone else too if you're confused or lost. And they either won't know, which is totally fine, or they might be able to point you in the right direction. Next slide, please. I'm conscious that I'm taking too long. I want to tell you all of the things. Okay, week 2. If your seminars don't start until week 2, make sure that you get along to them, get involved, get to know your classmates. My classes generally create like a Facebook Messenger group chat. And so then I know that if I just ask one of them, can you put this in the group chat, please, so that everybody will actually see it? Because as much as I try to encourage people to check their emails once a day, they might not always. And so putting it in the group chat often works well. So get to know your classmates, create those social networks, create those connections, highly recommend. I'm going to talk through some of the services in a little bit more detail in a second, but we have a library, the Student Learning Support Service. I already mentioned health and counselling. There are GPs on campus, counsellors on campus. My GP is the GP on campus. If you have a Medicare card or a healthcare card, then you should be able to access the GP here for free. And so get in, make an appointment, get to know them, and then they're right here and available for you. There's always a nurse who is on campus, so if you can't get in to see the doctor, there'll be a nurse there. Glorious. And Oasis is actually, we can see the Oasis building from where we are. It's next to the car park over there. That's the Oasis building. And we're going to have a slide about that in a moment, but just remember that I pointed to it and that's where you can go to get to it. Because of the nature of your degrees, some of you, particularly I guess the people who are doing interactive design, or no, we didn't have anyone put their hand up that, digital media, then there's going to be particular software programs that you need to get across as well. So just figure out what is the go with access to those. Are they loaded on the computers in the editing suites? Do you need to try and access a free download of some software? Is there something that you need to get across in order to make your studies go well? Next slide. I know it seems crazy to already be talking about assessments and assignments, but by about week 3 is when you'll probably want to get started on that. Because it is a 12-week, generally we have a 12 or 13-week teaching semester, and generally your topics will have 3, maybe 4 assignments in them. And that means that there is often an assignment due just before the mid-semester break, so around week 6, and definitely an assignment due in like week 12, week 13, and probably all of your topics will have assignments due at around similar times. It's not ideal, but we're all trying to space our assessments out across the semester, but everyone in all 3 or 4 of your topics are trying to do that as well. So just be mindful that you probably really need to start working on those assignments in around week 3. And sometimes your topic coordinators will tell you that, and sometimes they won't. That's often the biggest thing that people struggle with if this is your first time at university, is that we just assume that once you've got sometimes people assume that you've got your plan, and they might say the day before something is due, so make sure you've handed your things up via flow by 4 p.m. tomorrow. And people are like, what? You haven't been talking about this for the last 2 weeks. No, we haven't, because the content that we're teaching in class is perhaps related to the assignment, but working on the assignment is something that you do in your own time. So just be mindful that sometimes your topic coordinators will keep reiterating when things are due, and sometimes they'll expect you to have a little bit more agency and control over managing your time. You might have between 3 and 4 hours of contact time for a topic, but in general, you should be considering working 10 to 13 hours per week per topic. Now, that's not going to be equally spread across every week, but you will have readings for a topic, working on an assignment, perhaps doing a collaborative project. By the time you add all of those things up, plus your 3 or 4 hours of attending the class, you're going to get to 10 hours really quick. And so if you're doing about 10 hours a week for all 4 topics, that's 40 hours in your week. And that's like a full-time job. And I'm conscious that lots of people are also working at the same time as being at university. So that's just something to start thinking about. I often tell students to think about how long it takes you to do a reading. If you've got a reading that is 10 pages long, do you have a sense in your brain about how long it takes you to read 10 pages? How long it takes me might be quite different to how long it takes you. I'm a slow reader. I like to write as I read and take notes as I go. Other people can just like whip through that stuff so fast, and I'm like, how the hell did you get to that page already? So try and get a sense of how long it takes you to read something, be able to factor that into your weekly schedule. Talk about it. I really digressed there. The point being made was start working on your assessment in week 3. Let your lecturers or your tutors know if you can't come to class. It's just good, respectful practice, professional practice, to let people know if you can't attend. And particularly if you're going to not be able to attend for a couple of weeks in a row, you might need to do some extra work to kind of make up for things that you're missing, or make it really clear to your lecturer that you have a plan to catch up if materials are available online. Let's keep clicking through. Oh, was there? Okay. If we're unsure if we're prepared, oh no, that was that question. We've already done that one. Yeah, great. We will in week 4 have a skills week events. So events all related to developing your skills as emerging academics and emerging university students. And so try and attend those if you can. If you grab a free diary or a free calendar, it's going to really clearly outline to you that Friday of week 2 is the last date for you to enroll in any topics. Friday of week 5 is the last date for you to withdraw from any topics. Sometime in the semester, and I don't want to be too specific about this in case I'm wrong, but there'll be a particular date that you can withdraw without failing a topic or withdraw without having to pay for a topic. And so just be across those dates in the semester. You're going to get a lot of feedback. You're going to get feedback on your assignments. I'm always like, are people reading all of this feedback that I'm giving them? I hope so. You know, we don't give feedback because it's fun. Marking assignments is often, you know, lecturers often love the teaching and the active doing. I love reading student work. It is often really difficult to try and figure out exactly the nuanced feedback I can give specifically to you that's going to help you progress on your next assignment. So take it on board. We're doing it to help. We're doing it to help you grow and develop as an artist, as a thinker, as a creator, as a maker. And so it is not meant to hurt, it's only meant to help. So please try and get into that habit of seeking out feedback, taking on feedback, being open to feedback, constructive feedback. Okay, we are going to skip my glorious get to know the person next to you activity because I'm conscious of time. So we'll click on through. We'll keep going. Okay, so there is a QR code that if anyone will leave this up for a second or two so that people can snap a picture of that if you would like. You can see a doctor or nurse, chat with a counsellor, figure out your access plan. They are in a building here on campus. You can go and walk up there and see them, and all of the contact details are available there. So I can see some people taking snapshots of that slide. That's excellent. And Brielle, I see your question about where are you alerted about events. The university might sometimes email you about events if they're university-wide. The college might email you about events if they are college-wide. And and then it just kind of keeps going down. So sometimes your topic coordinators might put up notices and announcements on Flow about events, or I have a tendency to just email my students. Once I've got my class list, for example, I've been given some free tickets to some fringe events, and so I've emailed those out to my students. Or like an email that says, here is a code to get 30% off this, tickets to this show. So it'll be via email or via Flow is where you'll get that information. Great question. Thanks, Brielle. Let's click through. Oasis, I mentioned it before. It's just over there. You can go and head to that space for workshops, mental fitness workshops. There are yoga sessions. I think it's on a Thursday. They have markets where sometimes there's free food, sometimes it's like, have a loaf of excellent sourdough bread for 80 cents. Like super cheap items, like a super cheap market or grocery store that is held there, and often with some free stuff as well. And then often things that aren't like sold or taken end up on a trolley in the humanities laneway over here later on in that afternoon. So it's just one of the ways that we're trying to, we understand that money can be tight for lots of people. Here is one thing that is available via Oasis. So check them out online, go in there and say hi, introduce yourself if you want to get some more information about Oasis and what's available there. We have a prayer room, conversation groups, equal opportunity advisors, the Pride Network, the Good Vibes Experiment. There are all sorts of things that are happening around campus to try and make sure that things are going well for you. Some of them are specific, like the Pride Network might be specifically for people who identify as queer, LGBTQIA+. There's probably an ally network that goes along with that. I only really know about the Pride Network. And so some of these services are for specific groups of people who identify in a particular way, and sometimes they are services that are available for everyone. So just see what might be out there and available for you and to help things go well. International Student Services is specifically for people who have come here from overseas and are international students studying here on campus. They have other particular orientation activities that they'll be doing. There'll be other events throughout the year that are specifically tailored for people who have come from overseas to try and get a sense of exploring Adelaide and the surrounding area and connecting with one another who've got a similar experience of not only going to perhaps university for the first time, but also being in a completely different country. So if we've got any international students in the room, I highly recommend that you get in touch with ISS. I always tell my students to put security's phone number in their phone. It's always just good to know that it's there. You'll never know that you need it in advance. You'll only ever wish that you had it when you find that you do need it. Now, this might be if you see something on campus that you think, oh, that's really unsafe, somebody is being harassed, that's totally inappropriate, what's happening over there. And for my own safety, I'm not going to step in, but I'm just going to call security and let them know what I'm seeing take place. It could be that somebody's had an accident, someone has tripped and fallen over and they probably need an ambulance. We start by calling security and then they're able to help guide the ambulance onto campus. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why you might contact security. If you're here late at night and you're parked in the top car park and it's like 10 o'clock at night and you're not feeling like it is the best idea to walk from where you are to the top car park, you can call security. They have a golf cart. They will come and take you back to your car. Security is who you call if you are meant to have swipe card access to a room, but for some reason the bloody door just isn't opening, the space is locked, you can't get in, you're meant to have access. Call security and they'll come and unlock the door for you. There are so many reasons why it is useful. I feel like I know all of the security people on campus for a whole bunch of variety of reasons, but it's great. It's really good. So put this number in your phone. There are scholarships available. I promise we are so close to the end. Oh gosh, we're a little bit over time. There are scholarships available for all sorts of reasons. Some of them are more academically focused. Some of them are for people who are perhaps experiencing financial need. And so as it says there on the slide, it often only takes about 5 minutes to apply. And what, how many, $3 million in scholarships up for grabs? Throw your hat in the ring, friends. When I was applying for my first year at university, I was like, I'm just going to apply for all of the scholarships I possibly can. And for some of them, I was the only applicant. So yay me. But people often don't apply for these things that are available. So throw your hat in the ring. Maybe take a picture of this. If you want to find out more information, you can go to this website. Now, I'm conscious that you might have other things that you need to get off to, but this was going to be a time for questions. I'm going to stay in the room for the next 5 minutes. If people online or people in the room have a question, perhaps we'll stop the recording at this point because it might get loud here as people leave. And if you've got a question, come down into this lower level and you can chat with Claire and Annie and I. But thank you all so much for coming along to this session. I know that that was a lot of information and that I am a particular brand of enthusiasm. So thank you for being an excellent